Welcome back to the Wichita Toy Train Club YouTube channel. I'm Zachariah. Behind the camera we have Chris, and today we're going to take a look at a Mr. Muffins Trains exclusive Lionel Union Pacific E-9 AA set and a Union Pacific SuperBass E-9B. Before we get too in depth with this model here, a little bit of history on the EMD E-9s. The E-9s were the 10th rendition of the EMD's E unit. Of course, these were the last ones. There's about 100 cab units built and only about 40 B units built. These models, of course, we have here are representative of the E-9s that Union Pacific still owns today. The rear A that you can't see here is 951, which was also used on the preamble for the Freedom Train. So these models here were produced for Mr. Muffins Trains exclusively by Lionel. These locomotives were produced in a limited number. At the current time, Lionel only required a 25 order, minimum order for custom run stuff. And this was, of course, based off of what they produced in the catalog. So the EMD E8s were cataloged in the Lionel 2020 Volume 1 catalog. And that's where these based off of, because the E8s and the E9s were physically very, if not almost identically similar in cosmetic appearance. That's where we can kind of fudge the numbers a little bit, and they can become, E8s can become E9s. So these were offered along with the pre-orders from the 2020 Volume 1 catalog, the AA set. This would have been an AA set. The B unit came in the 2020 Volume 2 catalog. Since Lionel did not catalog any B units in the first catalog, couldn't make one. Since they're a custom run deal, basically they're already making these bodies and the frames and everything. It's just a different paint. So that's where the special runs come into play there. The B unit actually is based off of the E7 body style, so it's not completely accurate. Because Lionel had cataloged E7Bs, not necessarily E8Bs or an E9B. But it's painted up to go with these, so that's what we're doing here. All right, so here we have our two A units. We'll see what we can see on that other one. But up front here we have our big O-gauge coupler. These do come with mounts. You can change these out for scale KD couplers if you so choose. Our pilot is attached to the truck. I don't know how well you can see that. You probably see the gap there. But anyway, moving up, we do have an add-on detail here. We do have ditch lights. These are representing the E9s as they are in excursion service. So we do have the ditch lights. We have the nice UP flag logo here, our nice 949. That is a lighted number board. Same with the other A unit, our crisp Union Pacific, each side of the nose. We have marker lights. These are only red, so they only come on when this particular A is in reverse. So the headlight turns off and the marker lights will turn on. Up top, we have our nice anti-glare Union Pacific green up top here. Moving up, there's separately applied grab irons, windshield wipers. There's the plastic inserts, good looking windows. Everything looks great on the front of the locomotive. Moving along on the sides of everything, of course we have these nice steps going up to the cab. It starts down here on the truck. The side cab doors do open. They are sprung, so they typically stay closed. There's inserts. They kind of block everything out so you don't see the electronics. But on all the portholes, there are a plastic insert in there. Up top along the side, we do have this really nice silver grate. You can see that a little bit better over here. A bunch of rivet detail. The side trucks look amazing. Our fuel tanks are our standard fuel tanks. There are some separately painted red parts on there. In the middle, there is another sprung door. So there's one here and there's one over here. Here's a little bit of better shot up close on one side of the cab. One thing to note, we do have a nice crisp E9 stamp here. That looks very nice. We have our nice crisp 949, an EMD logo builder's plate going on here. And actually, I didn't notice it earlier, but there is safety tread on these steps up here on the body, so very nice. And as you can see in there, there is a crew figure. That is our engineer right there in the cab. Both A units do have 2 crew figures, so that does allow you to use each A independently. Do remember they are both powered, so they can be used independently of each other if you so choose. Looking up top here, we do have the details for the HEP or head-end power. Of course, that is, again, configuration they are currently in, so they're added on top of here. Horn, bunch of fan details. All the fans are separately applied, so they do they'll spin inside their little case here. They're not motorized or anything. Right here, we do have our 2 exhaust stacks, so there is a single smoke unit down in there, and to load that smoke unit, just pour fluid down one of the 2 stacks. Moving back, we have the rear hatch here. We can see the lift rings we have on it, and I don't know if that's supposed to be an antenna or what it is, but it's a nice little grabber to be able to pick this up. The back end picks up, and those lift out. We have little tabs. See, hopefully you can see those. There is a metal ring and a magnet, so that way that doesn't come off unless you need it to. And we have access to our switches. Now this also used to be where you would see a 9-volt battery connection for the rail sounds. That would only have been the case for conventional operation, but with the new soundboards, that's not an option anyway. So that's not, can't do that, add that here anymore. But we do have our 3 switches. So what we do have is our run program switch. That way we can set the TMCC ID of the locomotive, and smoke on off, so for this particular smoke unit, and Bluetooth on off. Now this is on 949. It's very important to remember 949 holds the master Bluetooth card. If you do run these via Bluetooth, and you can, to make sure that all the Bluetooth switches are on, and 949 is going to be the one you hook to, and the B unit and the 951A unit will slave to this Bluetooth board. Now looking at the rear of the A unit here, we can see we have our walkway diaphragm here, and I just hit it. But as you could just tell, they are sprung, so they are very nice. The rear coupler back here, because this was sold as an AA set, that rear coupler is completely non-operational. You can't open it manually. It's just strictly, it's there. And as I stated earlier, you do get the mounts. You could put a KD coupler in there if you so choose. Our walk door in there does not open. There is a nice little window in there though. Moving on to the SuperBass B unit. This is literally here for just sound. No motors. It does have a smoke unit, so there'll be smoke coming out of its exhaust ports, but it is solely here to create bass. It does a very good job at it. Hopefully you guys can hear it a little bit later. But on the detail side of it, it is also still very nice. Like I said earlier, this is based off the E7B shell, so not totally accurate for the E9s, but like I said, it'll suffice for what we're doing here. Moving on though, we do have a nice crisp Union Pacific down the side here. Our squared portholes. Again, there's the inserts in there, but they are blacked out. That way you don't have to see all the wires and other junk that would be inside of there. Bunch of rivet detail. We do have these nice grates here, and they are kind of a see-through deal. You can see some cross members in there, so that's very nice. Another nice step. Nice silver trucks. And we do have another sprung door. On the front, there is another completely non-operating coupler, like I said before, with the A unit, so that is another non-operating coupler. On the rear, though, there is a electric coupler, which can be fired from the legacy remote. On the top of our B unit here, we can see we do have, again, very nice, decent details. I do think, since the, I don't know how well it's going to come across, the grays in between the different runs did change a little. Kind of an odd deal there, but it is what it is. But moving on, we do have 8 exhaust ports total. There's 4 back here, another 4 here. We have these nice radiator vents, a bunch of different lift rings everywhere. Now to add smoke fluid to this, there's one smoke unit for all those exhaust ports. Do not pour the smoke fluid directly down the stack. What we're going to do is this little knob right here, it's going to turn one way or another, I believe counterclockwise, and that's going to lift up. So we do have this nice kind of a lever action deal going on here to hold that in place, and that helps hold that foam down over the funnel. Again, there's another little tab there, so that way you got to make sure you get that back in when you put it on. But after we go through all that and get it off, there's a nice hole right here, right above the smoke unit, so you can get that smoke fluid directly into the smoke unit without it having to sit in that funnel, and maybe it gets there, maybe it doesn't. So that was a really cool addition Lionel added. Moving back, this is the rear of our SuperBass B unit here. Again, there's another set of very nice details up here, lift rings and so forth. Again, we have some additional separately applied details, and they are very good. You grab the front piece here to lift up. Again, there's a magnet and little clips, so you want to lift up and then pull out. And that reveals a crap ton of different switches. So we can go through here and configure the B unit how we want to run it. If we're running this this full consist like we're going to be doing here, an ABA consist, or even an AB, you know, we don't need the dialogue from the A unit and from the B unit. So if you're running in Bluetooth where you don't have the capabilities of you know, changing everything like we can with the legacy Cab 2 remote, these switches allow you to do that. So, and I think these are upside down on you, but that's okay. First, we have our run program switch that allows us to set the TMCC ID. The way I do this is I give everything their own separate ID, and I configure everything via the Cab 2. But these switches allow you to do the same thing if you would like to set everything to the same TMCC ID, or like I said, if you're using Bluetooth, it allows you to customize everything. So moving on, of course, we have the Bluetooth on-off switch. Now, like I said, this does slave to the main A unit, so make sure that the main A's Bluetooth switch is on if you want to go that route. We can use our, we have a smoke on-off switch, our coupler on-off switch, so this disengages that rear electrocoupler. So that way, when we're running in an ABA consist, if we hit the rear coupler on any given remote, the coupler on this B unit doesn't open up on us. Moving on, along the side here, we do have a dialogue on-off switch and signal on-off switch. So dialogue, like I said, is that crew talk, tower comm stuff there. And this is on in this case, like I said, because I configure everything via the Cab 2. The signal on-off switch, I also leave on this B unit because the sounds, they don't almost always, the bell gets kind of weirded out. But the horn kind of gives you that reverberation because this is all the bass out of the horn, whereas the front A unit gives you them. So you kind of start to get that Doppler effect. Now remember, the rear A has no sound. So this is where the sound stops, unfortunately. It'd been really nice if Lionel would have added sound into that rear A unit. So this is the bottom of our main A unit here. As we can see, there is a speaker for the sound system. We just have the one here. The trailing A will not have a speaker. We do have our LCS IR sensor for the LCS sensor track. Bluetooth logo and FCC mumbo jumbo that nobody wants to know about. We have our Lionel serial number, very nice. We do have 4 traction tires on each powered A. So we have 2 traction tires here and 2 here. You do get an extra set of traction tires when you purchase a locomotive. That way you have a spare set if you ever need them. The 2 inner axles are completely powered. So we see our open gears here. Be sure to keep an eye on those. Just add a little bit of grease. You don't need a lot. They're open. If you put a lot there, then they'll collect dust and other junk will get in there. But it's good to keep them just a little wet. That's all we're going for there. And of course, when you do get a good new locomotive or something you bought online, it's always good to go through and oil everything. So on these, we're going to hit all of our center rail pickup rollers, anywhere where there's a metal axle going through a bronze bushing. So the front axle here, it's completely spinning, but it needs a little drop of oil. And right, you know, again, right everywhere in between where those metal axles go through the truck frame. The other thing to remember is this does have Lionel's line drive system. So if you turn the trucks a full 90, you can actually pull the truck off. I'm not going to do it because then I'll lose the little coupler that's in there, and I don't need to do that. But I did actually have on one of them, if your electric coupler doesn't work, there's a plug on there. You can do that to pull the truck off, and the plug's right there. If it just dislodged, that's all you got to do. We're now looking at the bottom of our E-9B unit here. And like I said, everything's unpowered. But be sure to go through, give everything a good little drop of oil, again, where those axles go through the bearings. We have our one speaker here, Bluetooth, FCC, mumbo jumbo, nobody cares about. Do keep an eye on, if this front axle here does have a magnetic roller here, and that is what allows the sound system to know that the things, everything's moving. So if anything, you pick up a screw or something on there, that could be what's shorting you out on your track. If you magically have a short, that's one place to keep an eye out on. Okay, we've moved over to the new O-gauge layout here, mainly for being big 6-axle diesels. They move around. The minimum curve on these locomotives is 036, believe it or not, and they will make an 036 curve. It's a lot of train, but with the 21-inch passenger cars behind it, this layout works out a little bit better for us. So we'll go ahead, we'll get them fired up and listen to some of the sounds here.
Dispatcher here. Start her up. Stand by for track orders. Over. Yes, sir. We'll fire her up. Out.
All right, so we got it started up, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to run this as a train, so everything has its own individual IDs. The main reason for that is those two powered A's. As soon as you give them a TR number, even if you normally run them with a single digit, if you add like a station sound car like I do and make it a train, then you have to make everything give everything a separate ID, because that trailing A will default to forward on you. I found that out the hard way. So that's the reason why I run that way. You can, if you're not making the train for the Station Sounds Diner, there's absolutely nothing wrong with running all of these under one TMCC ID or even Bluetooth. You can use a universal remote or the Line Chief app. And sometime in the future, there'd be a Cab 3 app you can use too. Whoop-de-doo. Anyway, let's go ahead and listen to there's 5 horns. This is the new board from Lionel. So we have 5 horns and 5 bells. So we'll listen to some of the horns here. So there's the default horn, and that's also with the horn coming out of the B unit. So we'll go ahead and change the horn. We'll do that by hitting aux 1. So there's our different horns, and there's a couple different bells sounds. As you can tell, the bells sometimes get out of sequence and then it sounds really weird. That's the only bad part about having the signal sounds on the B unit. If you can't stand that, you can turn that off. And there are a couple different pitches of the bell there. There's some other sounds here.
Dispatcher, ready to roll. Can I pull? Over. Hold for track orders. Dispatcher out. It's going to be 1 hour long if we don't move on soon.
Okay, now real quick, I'm going to rev up the RPMs here, and then as soon as we get to the top, I'll try to turn down the volume on the B unit and try to see if you guys can tell what a difference that super bass B unit makes. So we'll go ahead and rev up. Okay, we're revved up all the way. I'm going to go in and turn down the B unit sound. Okay, we're still on the roof, but now that's the sound system out of the single A unit. The B unit is completely turned down. We'll go ahead and turn it back up. Okay, we'll go ahead and rev back down. Okay, we've revved all the way back down. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned earlier, and you guys probably noticed it, there is no manual volume pot on these new locomotives. You can only adjust that volume control from a some sort of remote, either the Line Chief app, the Cab 1, the Cab 2, some sort of remote. Even the Line Chief universal remote, you can use that as well. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take them out. Earlier, I didn't have the smoke units on. I got the smoke units turned on now. Their heat up sequence has turned off, so you probably can't quite see them, especially with the white plaster behind here. But as we start moving, you guys ought to be able to see them here. So I'm going to go ahead and activate sequence control. And we'll take it for a spin around the layout. And right there you can kind of tell with the different sound systems being out of sync. That was all sequence control, not from the cab.
Dispatcher, we're signing out and going to beans. Out.
So as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video, these are based off the E-8s that were cataloged in Lionel's 2020 Volume 1 catalog. They retailed for right at $1,000. If you find any decent Lionel dealer that actually still has some of those in stock, you probably get a little bit of discount on that retail price. Then again, remember, these were a special run. If you find one of these, it's probably going to have to be on eBay. The E7B, quote unquote, would have been cataloged in the Lionel's 2020 Volume 2 catalog, and they retailed right at $450. Again, if anybody still has something in stock, you probably get a little bit of discount on that retail price. Out of everything here I don't know how well everybody was able to hear in the video, but that SuperBass B unit really does make a difference. So like I said, I don't know how well it's going to come through, but you know, when I just first hear them coming on, you don't really notice it. But if I turn down that SuperBass while everything's running, it makes a huge difference. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No, other than the SuperBass, that's honestly my favorite part of this engine, just because of how bassy and how nice the sounds are with it.
Very cool. So this concludes our review of the Mr. Muffins exclusive run of the E-9 AA set and the SuperBass E-9 B unit. If you like this video, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. It really helps us out. If you have not already, go ahead and go down, hit subscribe, and hit the bell. That way you get all the notifications of our product reviews and running train videos. And if we ever get to it, maybe some information on the new layout. I promise you it's going around. It's just hard to get videos out. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook. That gives you all of the updated information of our open hours here in Wichita, Kansas, along with any and all train shows that we may be attending. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.